mentioned, the challenges are many in the industry today, and one of the topics is about identities, and that will be a focus, and I give you a quick insight on the perspective from PointSharp and what we offer in this area of the market. So in short, PointSharp is all about secure login, but it's also all about making it easy. We are a European-based software vendor focusing on this, delivering software and products in this area. We're based out of Sweden. And our customers today, what we offer them is a secure login that help them to create a modern digital workplace. And that's kind of the soul. It sounds very simple, but it comes with a lot of challenging things and thoughts, and depending on the requirements for different organizations. But coming back and moving away from the technology, everything that we in IT want to do is to provide a very modern workplace for our end users so they can focus on their business and be effective, ease of use, and do what they are good at. And security has always been connected to something of making things difficult, and users are trying to avoid it. But it's also necessary, and you could see it from the other directions, that's something that enables users to work modernly, mobile, and so forth. So what are the challenges today that we see? We meet a lot of customers, and they want to be modern, create this modern workplace. But one of the challenges is that they are not having a choice. They usually feel that they are being forced to cloud vendors because all the new functionality, all the new nice features, yes, it is there, but you have to go to our cloud service to do that. For some organizations, that's great. But for some organizations, for different reasons, and I will take some of the topics of that, they can't do that. Not today, maybe over time. They're ready to do some things, put some applications in cloud, but they can't be forced. Also, it's important, especially the larger the organization you are, you have more use cases and you have more different digital entrances, and you have to secure them all. And it's too easy and too common that we see that, yes, we have this and this and this with multi-factor authentication. We have secure, but we have a backdoor here. Not uncommon. That could be mobile email that is only based on username, password. So you have to cover everything. Otherwise, it really doesn't make sense. But most important, focus on the end user experience. That's something we're taking very seriously, because we know if we're not making security easy, the only way for user to make security easy, because they're always trying to find this way, is trying to bypass it. So it has to support the end user, it has to help them to be secure, and it has to be easy. And maybe not only just for the end users, but also for the IT department delivering the services. So what's the type of customer of PointSharp? We have large organizations, we have small organizations, and of course, everybody has their different challenges, different industries and so forth. This is one example, Scandinavian Airlines. I would say this is a typical customer, because they have a lot of challenges that are sometimes related to security, sometimes related to cost, and sometimes related to more of politics, you could say. They are a company that obviously not only value security, but they have to have security from brand awareness. They're running an airliner. Security is important. They also have a large volume of users, different types of users. They have users that are office users, which have company phones. They have users that are more of external traveling users, very mobile, typical with private phones. So they have some political, what can you do with private versus corporate phones? And they have applications that are very vertical, but they also have applications in cloud, like they're running Exchange online, for example, for email, the Office 365. So they have a little bit of everything, and this is a perfect match for a solution like PointSharp, because we can offer the flexibility to take full control how their user log in to all their different applications. So you may ask, well, why do I need secure login? Why is it so important? And there's typical, we always, especially in the industry, talk about the threats out there. And I mentioned a bit earlier, we have reasons to use security from security part, as identity thefts being a very growing business today from cyber criminals. But we also have, maybe what's more important is that users today in a hybrid infrastructure need to log on to a lot of different applications. And by introducing security, you can actually sometimes even make it easier, because you can take control how the user log in. You can introducing a sign-on functionality and so forth. What we see, some customers are there to 100%, some customers are traveling in this direction, and that's basically a hybrid IT environment. Some applications are on-prem, and they will be for many years. They may be in the infrastructure, and you move the infrastructure to cloud, but more and more applications out there are outsourced, either in traditional outsource, it may be called private cloud today, but you have public cloud services. You have specific applications that you buy solely as a cloud service, and you have a broader offering from, for example, Microsoft and Google and Amazon. So there's a lot of different applications out there, and the only thing you know that users have to access all of these. And it's very easy to end up by saying, okay, we need 2FA, MFA, secure login, Office 365. So let's enable that in Office 365. Oh, we need it in Salesforce, by the way. So we enable it there as well. And then we have an O1 or introduce something for on-prem network access. So it's easy to get too many different solutions, and you also lose the overall perspective. From Podjob perspective, we think identity is key in this type of environment, because that buys you flexibility, but it also buys you control, and you have an easy way to see when your users, where your users, to what application they access and log in. And from a user point, you can offer a similar user experience no matter what type of application they log into, and it doesn't matter where it's located, because the end user really don't care. And taking control of the identities is really important from a lot of aspects, especially if you look from GDPR, auditing capabilities, and so forth. If you have multiple solutions, it's much easier to actually lose that control. So what is secure login? We talk about secure login, other words, two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication. It all comes in history based out of 3 classic factors: something you know, which is a password; something you have, which is a physical token. Used to be a hardware token generating one-time password. Over the years has transferred, and a lot of customers may use the software in a smartphone. And something you are, biometrics. Taking some time to elaborate, but obviously we all see, and I think the mobile devices have pushed that heavily. Biometric is much more common today. But it's easy to getting blind of all of this, just having these 3 factors and think that's enough. Security is so much more than just the 3 different factors. You can hear a trend in the markets that say, oh, we should have passwordless login, because password actually destroys and is a security problem. So if you remove that factor, you want to introduce some other, and obviously that would be the only other factor you have if you want to have 2, would be biometrics. But sometimes the focus is wrong. One of the reasons password is a problem is because they're usually complex, and we have added complexity to working with password. Password could be more simplified if you combine other attributes. You could have it as a PIN code instead, or in some scenarios you could actually remove it. But why is it not enough? Well, from a user point, users today log in, to simplify a little bit, they log into 3 different scenarios. They log in to access network resources. Traditional VPN, been a standard for many years. That moves more and more to logging into applications. And devices has much more focus today, whereas in the past, you just logged in with username and password to your PC. Today, you log into your PC, but you also have your tablet, you have your smartphone. And what we see here is that biometrics has been a great add-on, and now we see more and more users using biometrics to log into the devices. PointShop, we focus not on the devices, we focus on logging into network and applications. However, we use, in some scenarios, information about the device, and especially if the device is protected in a good way by biometrics, to enhance the usability when you use log into the network or application, and especially by using devices and especially the smartphone as a token and the sensors to even include biometrics during the login. So a modern user experience, we strongly believe that the smartphone is the key for the user. No user wants to have anything extra. If it's enough to use your biometrics to log into your device, you don't want to have anything else than what you have anyway with you, the smartphone, when you log into your different applications or network. You don't want to have an extra hardware dongle if it's not necessary. Some scenarios, actually, hospital, governmental, it could be different use cases, but in general. And we think that the smartphone is the way to prove your identity, and that's the easiest way for an end user. And I'll come back to that a little bit. But also from an organization, you need to have insight and analytics, and we can provide, no matter where the user log in, cloud applications, on-prem applications, network, VPN, so forth. We can give all of that data that we store in the database visible to the IT department, and also for real time in our dashboard, but also for third party for reporting and other those type of software that do those things much better than we do. But this is important, especially in Europe now with GDPR. You have to be able to do auditing and see what's actually happening. On top of that, you have to protect all your access to information with a secure login solution. So the login app, why do we believe that that's the key for the future? Well, obviously everybody has a smartphone, but moving away from one-time password that makes multi-factor, two-factor, or secure login, as we say, much easier, because you don't have, as a user, to get the one-time password, enter it in another device, it's timed out, and you have to do it again. When you log in, you get the push notification on your smartphone asking you, are you actually logging into this application? You see your name, you see your company, and you can even use your smartwatch to approve the login. So that's easy. But what can you do more? Well, when you have intelligence on your smartphone, we can do much more. For example, we can enforce biometrics to say, well, you actually have to confirm to use your token with biometrics. We can also ensure to be able to use your smartphone as a token for proving your identity. You have to enable screen lock. So small intelligent features, they are not factors in the classic way of looking at authentication, but they're raising and making the overall secure login experience much more secure. But more important is also softer approaches. So for example, we built the PointShop login app, of course, but we built it for our customers. So you can brand it and you can have it as a tool to help and support your end users. So you can actually have a fully brandable that you can customize everything, a help page in our login app where you give the instructions to your user. If you have issues, you call this number, the user can click on it, the phone calls. You could have email, and obviously a connection to help desk is always a cost. And one of the more common costs is users forgetting about their password. So and you don't want to have them call help desk, that generates a cost, but it could also be a little bit lack of security on working through a help desk. So directly in the login app, we can offer password reset. So the user just clicks on the link and they get through a workflow with resetting their password, of course with multi-factor authentication, and they're good to go. And they can do that 24/7 without touching the help desk and generating a cost. And the user is, of course, happy because they could get access quickly, especially on Sunday night when you want to do that things that have to be done Monday morning. Self-service is important. Why? Because it's easy for the end user. So onboarding process has to be simple. Our login app is very easy to deploy in large volumes. The user log into a user portal, and if they install the app and then just by a QR code, they can just configure it and they're good to go to use it to prove their identity. But also if they're on the same device, obviously, it's kind of hard to take a photo on your own QR code. Then you can just click a link and it configure that login app on the same device. So it's quite easy to deploy quickly and in large quantities. Then we know that push notification, everything comes with pros and cons. And even if the most things are pros, sometimes you're in need to generate as a backup a one-time password because some scenarios may fit better in that. You have some equipment that only support that, or you actually are not online. You're up in an airliner, no Wi-Fi, or you get Wi-Fi for your PC, but you can't get connections for the push notification. There are different scenarios. Included in our login app, we have profiles for one-time password, one that can be connected to the company, and it works like a standard Google or Microsoft authenticator, so the user can have multiple profiles and even their private profiles. And this app is actually free on the market for users that just want to have an app that generates, works like a Google authenticator, but actually can be protected by biometrics and so forth. Also, we know that some customers are in different scenarios, and for political reasons, maybe not only security, they can't require that end users with private phones. If you remember our customer in Scandinavian Airlines. So what are the options then? Well, for example, Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator that users typically have anyway on their private phones for their private social media and so forth. We can use those as well. Our login app works as a Google Authenticator, so you can actually do the onboarding with the Google Authenticator and register that in our products. We can send out one-time password via SMS, emails, and so forth. And we have customers within government and especially defense that still require hardware tokens, and some customers that, well, for 10 users, 10% of the users, they just want to give a hardware token because they can't require that they should use private phones, and we can supply that as well. So we have a lot of broad platform to especially be flexible and working with large enterprises, and typically the larger the organization is, the more use cases are there, the more focus on security is there, and especially the requirements on what you can do and how you handle security is important. And then we have a very good fit with a flexible platform. And what makes us even more different from other vendors in the industry is that you can do all of this without being in cloud. You can have full control. You can even install it as software in your own computer area and have everything on-prem if you like. And what we also see is that a lot of customers, even if they move a lot of applications to cloud, there are still a lot of legacy applications on-prem that has to be handled if you want to have one and single solution. And one of the most common that we see at large enterprises is they haven't moved Exchange to cloud because the security cost, and there are a lot of different reasons. And what differs us is that we can actually support a very user-friendly way. As one example here is an on-prem applications like Exchange, and all the three different ways of accessing Exchange. It's mobile email, it's Outlook, and it's webmail, and we can do it with secure login. And what we do here to make it easy on the end user is that instead of doing an authentication every time, we work with something we call App DNA. And App DNA is unique information about the device. So if anyone steals the credentials, they can't still get access to your Exchange account and information because they need to have that physical device combined with the credentials. And that goes both for mobile email as well as Outlook. So you can run Outlook without VPN and using that with App DNA. We, however, register the App DNA at first time, then we use traditional multi-factor authentication. So we really know it's the right device connected to that user. Webmail, obviously very easy, as web-based, works on all devices, and traditional MFA, secure login with confirmation, push notification, or one-time password works very well. Single sign-on is another area that is important, especially in the area of hybrid IT environment. We offer a portal. The portal is quite basic. It's more aimed to support web-based applications, and the user can log in to our portal once, and then they just see the application they have access to. And then we can perform single sign-on both to on-prem applications as well as cloud applications, because the user don't care. They don't, doesn't matter where the application is located. They just want to have access. So that works basically with cloud that we integrate with an identity provider, and the most common is on our customer Microsoft ADFS, where we take full control of the authentication process, but reuse ADFS to generate federation tickets, because then we know we get 100% compatible with Office 365, which is a very common use case. But this also works with products from example Citrix, F5, that also have the capability of producing SAML tokens, as it's called in the federation world. On-premise, there are a lot of application providers that can publish and do single sign-on, and we can also publish Exchange mentioned, but it could be any type of web application that we can provide, and we can do single sign-on into especially Microsoft infrastructure as well, with technologies like Kerberos and TLM and so forth. Administration is also important. Just a quick glimpse. We try to have most of the user tasks available in our user portal, self-service. And from an administration point of view, we have a web-based interface, and it's integrated with our dashboard. So if help desk sit and look at the dashboard, they can say, okay, we have a user here with a lot of problems. They have a lot of faulty logins. They can click on the user. They get more detailed information. They can do all the things and so forth. And finally, just to give a little bit of an understanding how PointShop is delivered. As I mentioned, we're a software company. We build software. We deliver our solution as products, and they are running on Windows servers, so they can be dedicated physically, they can be run virtually, they can be run on-prem or in a cloud infrastructure or as your partner as an outsourced service. And it scales in the sense it runs on Windows Server based on .NET. The core component of PointShop is the server we call PointShop ID. That's kind of the brain of the system that interacts with user storages like Active Directory. It handles information authentication requests. It does policy authorization and other integrations. What makes it possible for PointShop to offer a login app that otherwise from competitive solutions only available as cloud services is that we have what we call PointShop Gateway. So because of that, you can actually have a login app that can reach out and reconnect to home through our gateway to PointShop ID and get this modern workplace look and feel, but you still don't need to put anything in cloud if you don't like to have it in cloud. And why wouldn't you do? Some customers, it doesn't matter, but keep in mind if you put authentication in a cloud service, you're going to expose every time you use a login, you're feeding cloud vendors data on how your users are logging into your applications. Example, if you log into Office 365, well, Microsoft would see it because they own the application. But when you log into Salesforce, another cloud, Salesforce would see it. But if you're using Microsoft authentication, why would you expose that to Microsoft that even have a competitive product to Salesforce? And especially if you're having user login to all other applications and on-prem applications network, there's no reason to push out of this data, all of this data to cloud vendors because they're using it. And you have privacy, GDPR, security aspects from other, and also availability that you require. If you're in control, if you buy it as a service from your partner, in example, Nomasis, you can put the requirements of availability. For example, I think it was 19th of November, Microsoft MFA was down, so not a single customer in Europe could log in for 1-2 business days, which is, of course, a high impact that is really bad for the organization. You really have no one to call because it's a big public factory, and if it's down and you really see it's not separated, there's really nothing you can do. But it's not necessary. You can actually take your applications and place them the best of choice, maybe in cloud, maybe on-prem, as a service from a partner, as a private cloud, and so forth. By taking control of identities, then you have still the flexibility, and you can do that by still offering a modern business.